Hi Flosstube, it's Karen, recovering monogamous stitcher. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023, and this is my video number 23. Welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, I'm so happy to have you back. Thank you for coming back. I always love to read comments, and I know not everyone comments, and I get that. I don't always either, but I just appreciate the feedback. It's so wonderful to hear that you enjoy what you see me stitching and that you're happy to come back again. And if you're new here, welcome. You're very welcome here. I hope you enjoy what you see, and I hope you will subscribe and like and come back again. So here we are. I named this video The Agony and the Ecstasy. So we're going to start out with the Ecstasy, and we'll get to the Agony, but I'm not going to dwell. I'll just let you know and we'll move on. So I'm so happy to have some FFOs to show you. I have a finished stitch to show you, and I have all my whips, and I'm excited to show you because I'm really happy with my FFOs. So 2 FFOs this time. This one you might anticipate because I showed you that I had it finished. This was my June cross stitch camp item for Colorado Cross Stitchers Cross Stitch Camp, and it was Hummingbird sampler. I went through all of my green tub of fabric, and I had like 3 different pieces of fabric that might go with this color, but not enough to do anything. Even putting all 3 together, it wasn't enough. So I went to Hobby Lobby and I found, I think, some great fabric. So here's my pillow. And can you see I totally copied off the front as closely as I could. So this fabric at Hobby Lobby was just the perfect color, and I think just subtle enough, and I found a solid that went with it. And last time, I don't know if it was last time, Instagram or Flosstube, somebody noticed that I hadn't put the buttons on, and she messaged me and said, remember to put the buttons on, and I did. Thank you so much for letting me know that. So here's my finish. And at first I thought I might do a chenille trim, which I often do, or a rickrack. And I thought, no, I like the way it looks on the cover of the pattern, and I'm going to keep it like this. I'm really happy with it. I like the shape. I like the weight. I think this is the best corners I've ever done. Thank you, Vanna, so much for your tutorials. I'm finally getting it, I think. And I put, it's mostly fiberfill up here and at the very bottom, but I put some lizard litter in the middle. And I think it gave it just the right weight. When I do total lizard litter, it can be quite heavy, which on one hand it's nice to, you can manipulate it and make it stand. But on the other hand, it's just unusually heavy. So I think I really got the right balance with this. So I'm patting myself on the back. Hope I don't hurt my arm doing it. But I'm really happy with this finish. Okay. Sorry, have to off put things somewhere. Okay, this next one, I'm so excited about this one. You've seen this. And I said I was going to finish it as the drum. And I said, shall I use velvet top or shall I use the fabric top? And you all said velvet. Elizabeth Eyles. Drum pin keep. I used Vanna Pfeiffer's video tutorial. Thank you so much, Vanna. She is a treasure to this community. She just freely shares all of her knowledge and skills and abilities, and every time I do a drum, I watch the video again and follow step by step because, I don't want to mess up. And I love that geode bird. That's why I wanted to stitch this. This was a stitch along for Laura DeWitt's birthday, January 1st, 2022. And I never intended to do the entire sampler. It didn't appeal to me, but this center surely did. It just jumped out at me. So I stitched it, and then I attributed Elizabeth Eyles up there, which is not the way it was in the sampler. And down here, I put the date and her age. And I kept a lot of fabric at the back because I didn't want it to be skinny. And I added the year I finished stitching it, not the year I finished it, and my initials. And you can see I added the herringbone stitching. Again, Vanna's tutorial. She showed how to do this in her finishing Pears. And I picture herringbone stitches being fatter and shorter, but Vanna said she likes the longer and it's quite skinny, close to the seam, as I did it that way, and I love it. I think it's perfect. It gives just the right kind of prim feel to it. I'm so happy with this. So happy with this. This is going to the State Fair. I love her. Okay, the one I had intended to, before I finished Elizabeth, hang on, I'm gonna get something right out of the edge here. Okay, I was going to submit in the stand-up kit. It's not stand-up, it's a finish that's anything other than framed. It's like it can be belts or purses or whatever. So anyway, I was going to do this one. It's a Prairie Schooler, and you've seen this before. And I love that well, it wasn't my idea. That's the way it was in the pattern. You know, the stick, and you actually put the owl's toes over it. And I love that. And it has a very prim finish. But if you listen to Vanna's tutorial, there are dimples. There are dimples. Not allowed. So at the time, it was the best I could do, and I was still going to enter it anyway, but now that I've finished Elizabeth Eyles, oh, she's going to the State Fair. Okay, love that. So thank you, Laura DeWitt, for introducing that wonderful sampler pattern to me, because I never would have come across that geode bird. It was wonderful. Okay, and I finished a stitch. The Velvet Parsnip Needlebook from Stacy, Nash Primitives, or Primitive Designs. And I was very close to the finish last time, so you probably would guess that I finished this. And I put the white whisper thread, which is a huge pain. It's as bad as Kreinik. Some other, either Flosstuber or Instagram person said that they do the first leg of the cross with white thread, and I used white sulky, and then just the second leg with the whisper. And I think it's plenty fuzzy enough, and it was hard to even, yeah, can you see fuzzy? It was hard to even thread the needle, of course, with all those little hairs sticking out. It was really hard. So I'm glad that's done, and I now, I took 2 items off my ready to be finished pile, and now I'm putting one back on. So 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I have the entire kit, as I told you, I ordered from Country Sampler in Spring Green, Wisconsin. And so this goes in my pile to be finished, and I hope to have it finished soon so I can show you. I don't want those things to languish. Okay, so my book of days. The last Flosstube was on July 7th, which was the last day of the first week. Yeah, it makes sense, right? In the hat's first week of the month sale, which is to stitch on a Hands Across the Sea sampler for the first 7 days of the month. Well, I did my Flosstube in the morning, and in the afternoon I had more time to go back to Jane Hopkins and finish up her 7th day, so I did that. Here's my book. I have some cute little 3D stickers that were part of the Smalls Exchange at StitchCon. I think they're so cute, and I've saved some for next year too. I have my reminder for the August Stitch Camp, and so that's my stuff. And I've made some really good progress. I've checked almost everything off on my list. These are the things I have to do this month, and the only thing I've not yet done is to finish the Prairie Schooler Santa. I've put in the number of days for seasonal small, so that's checked, but it's not done yet, and it has to be done by the end of before the end of the month for the Stitch Camp. So that day after Flosstube, you know who she is, our beautiful Miss Jane. Let me show you what is left for me to do. The bird, these 2 pots, and the bird ends some of the strawberries around, and then the satin stitching. So I can see the end in sight. I'm getting really excited about this. Let me get to showing you the girl herself. Oops, knock other stuff down. Here she is, so far. Here she is. So on that last day, I went back here and Started this pot of flowers, and I think I said to you, because there is a petal that comes out that has to meet exactly correctly with the pot over here, I'm working this way, so if I have to do some kind of adjustment, it'll be in that petal. Because I'm not taking any of this out. This baby is in. Whether it's right or wrong, it's in. I think it's very close. I might be a stitch to one direction or something, but it's very close, and I just love it. Every time I look at it, I see more detail in it, seeing it on camera, than I do when I look at it in person. Anyway, okay, so Jane Hopkins, she's coming along. Love her, love her, love her. Okay, then I went to my red sampler, and I always have a red sampler in my rotation, and I give it 3 days a month of stitching. And I am working on Maria Vincenza Larrichia from Hands Across the Sea. She is a big girl. So I'm stitching it on 56 count fabric so that the width will be 21 inches wide instead of what it could be 42 inches wide, which I could never afford to frame that. So here she is. Let's see, I've worked on more of these motifs down here. I've continued to the next border design. I've started this up here. It takes a long time. 56, I'll tell you, when you go from stitching on 56 and you go to something like a 36 or even a 40, I notice I'm covering a lot more territory with each X than I do on this one. But this is there's something so relaxing and fun about having a single color. You don't have to think about the color. You're just looking at the stitches and doing your X's, and there's a lot to be said for that too. So even though it's big, I'll get it done. There she is. Okay, so I'll see her again next month too. And then, as I've said many times before, this is my year to get samplers done. So I'm concentrating on samplers, and I've chosen big samplers. So there's a plug in the pipeline here. All of a sudden, when Jane Hopkins became my focus piece, I had only 3 WIPs: Jane Hopkins, Maria Vincenza Larrichia, and the Red Deer sampler. And I had nothing else. So I started throwing in some new starts, getting some smaller things done. For example, like the velvet parsnip. And last time I did a whip parade, not a whip parade, a kit parade of my kitted up things that I had not started, my daughter saw it and she said, I like that one. She said, it's something about blue and there's strawberries and birds. I knew what she was talking about. Blue flower, strawberry bird. So I gave this a start. Gives me something else to switch off from. It's just got a, oops, it's got a little start. So the strawberries are not red. They're kind of a coral, terracotta kind of color. Simple start. But that's blue flower. That's going to be nice. So that gives me something else to work on also. The next thing I worked on was Prairie Schooler Santa, which is my Cross Stitch Camp July piece. And it has to have something that grows, and Santa has a tree, so the tree grows. So this is counting. And again, I'm doing Prairie Schooler, I'm going back to Prairie Schooler Santas, and I'm going to finish up the ones I already have purchased. And because daughter said she likes them and she'd like those for her tree, so I'm working on getting some of those done. So that's my July stitch camp. Not finished yet. I've had a couple Zoom calls, so I've gotten some outlining done so I could just fill in. It's coming along. I'll get that done before the end of the month. So this is probably the next thing I'm going to have to, between now and the end of the month, I need to jump on this and get serious about getting that one done. Okay, and now we come to the Agony. You've seen this. This is Modern Folk Embroidery by, Forget-Me-Not by Modern Folk Embroidery. And this is the piece that Katie Strachan used to do her Simple Harmony box. And I'm doing what I'm calling Forget-Me-Not because it's to memorialize 6 generations in my maternal line, which ends with my daughter. But I came to the realization during my stitching days on this that I cut it wrong. It's not going to fit. It's my own stupid fault. My own stupid fault. Look at this. I've got another motif to come down here. This has run out of room. And the mistake I made, I kept going, I made it generous. How did that happen? I know I cut it bigger than I needed it just so that wouldn't happen. Okay, so here's the lid of the box. I've taken the hardware off. So here's the lid. I measured this and added border. It has to bend here. It has to come down here. It has to come down here. It has to come over here. So thinking I was being generous, I was just barely covering what needed to be covered. And then when Katie says to start, she says, come in 3 inches from the left and 2 inches from the top, which I did. And then that pushes it down even farther because I hadn't accounted for the sides of the lid. So, okay, not whining anymore. I'm moving on. I'm going to see if I might possibly be able to salvage this because there is a trim that goes along the bottom. I have a 1/4 inch wide trim. So perhaps when I get to the dry fit, I might be able to make it work. If not, or if it's not going to look good, I will put this aside, I'll get more fabric, and I will restitch the top. I'm not going to throw this away. It can go, I've been thinking it could be, you know, on the back of a project bag when I finish it up the way it is, or a zippered pouch or something. I'll do something with it anyway. I won't throw it away. But I'm not giving up hope that it might possibly be salvageable. Because I have which is what I did not do before I cut my fabric, and I should have, but so if you take this paper pattern, and I don't have the right kind of paper like Katie had, but if you do this and wrap it around, then lay it out, and then add your borders, that'll work. So, that's where I am, but smile on my face, I'm moving on, not giving up yet. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. If not, I'll restitch it, because I'm not giving that project up. Okay, the last WIP I worked on was Little Red Chair Sampler, Scarlet House. Now, I had started this before. I know I've shown this before because someone at StitchCon showed me her finish of this on 56 count using silk. Oh my gosh, gorgeous, gorgeous. But I had started it, I had finished the border met up, and so I'm not going to abandon this. I'm going to keep going. And when I last worked on this, something was wrong here. Something was wonky. I was watching TV, got distracted somehow, and it was wonky and wrong. So I went back the other day, whatever day I stitched this, I went back, took it out back to where it was right and fixed it, and I'm on track again. So anyway, Little Red Chair Sampler from Scarlet House. And I would love to do it on 56. If I do, it'll be a second one because I'm not abandoning that one. Wow, I whipped right through those, didn't I? What do we have here? I don't even, 18 minutes. Yeah, that's way shorter than I thought it would be. Okay, haul and stitchy kindness. I don't have much haul. I have a couple outstanding orders that I haven't even been told that they're mailed yet. Hobby House, I have an order, and the Attic, I have an order. And they haven't come yet. Amazon comes through nice and fast though. So this is blocking boards, and for my Forget-Me-Not sampler, Katie makes her own blocking board using flannel that has 1-inch squares, and she, you know, lines it up, and well, even if I could find flannel that had 1-inch squares, I would probably make it wonky and mess myself up anyway. So I'm going to use these, which are kind of nice because you can make them into a square. You can make them, you know, hook them together to be wide. So I got these at Amazon. Looking forward to using those, and then you pin your piece in. So that's the only haul that I have in hand, even though some other stuff is on the way. We had a meetup stitch with the Central Kentucky Stitchers. It was just on Tuesday. And I had some stitchy kindness from my friends. I get by with a little help from my friends. Jody went yard sailing or estate sailing, and she got 2 of these. I got 1 of them. Isn't that sweet? Isn't that cool? You know what this is for. Put your scissors in. I just pulled a few of my small scissors out. Now they're not wanting to hang nicely, but anyway. Yeah, I think this needs a tomato pincushion in the center. I'm gonna have to get on that, see if I can get that done. But I love it. Thank you so much, Jody. That was so sweet. Boy, I can get by with a little help from my friends. Love that. And Lisa, she had messaged me on Instagram and said, do you like to do specialty stitches? And I said, well, yeah, if there are diagrams to show me how, I would do it. And she said, I have a Hands Across the Sea pattern for you. And she brought it to me. Anne Borrett or Barrett, 1646. Oh my, this is beautiful. It's still available. I went to the website this morning to check, and it's still available. I don't know what year they came out with this because I don't see a year on it. Talk about specialty stitches. Yes, let me read you the list. 2 versions of reversible cross stitch, running stitch, double running stitch, satin stitch, double back stitch, diagonal double back stitch, Montenegrin stitch, and detached buttonhole filling stitch. It's gorgeous. There are 11 colors. A few of them need doubles, so it would take 15 spools of the 11 colors. I'm going to have to do this in silk. I mean, this is worthy of silk. It's reversible for one thing. But of course, there are wonderful diagrams. Here, let me just, okay, diagrams here, not the pattern diagrams, but see. So there are diagrams into how to do the specialty stitches. I'm going to do this. This was never even on my radar. I'd never seen it before. Carol Saltbox and Brenda and Laura probably know about this one, but oh my. So I'll see if I can pull this off. Wonderful. That's Anne Borrett or Borrett from Hands Across the Sea. So that was my stitchy kindness from my good buds in the Central Kentucky Stitchers. Okay, plans. I'm going to finish the Prairie Schooler Santa, so it gets done in July. Leon's Legacy stitch. I finished Baby It's Cold Outside, and I need another project for Leanne's Legacy. If you're stitching Leanne's Legacy, would you tell me what you're stitching? The only other one that really comes to mind that I attached with Leanne was the Yes Virginia, which is huge. It has a red background. I think she used a red gingham, and it's all stitched in white with the not outline, but the Santa's in white, and then all the words of the Yes Virginia letter, that famous Yes Virginia letter that was some Kansas newspaper or something. And I'm not going to tackle that one. I know I won't do that one. So if you could let me know what you're doing for Leanne's Legacy, I'd love that. Maybe it's something I already have in my stash, and if not, I'll have some time to kit it up, and because I want to be doing something for Leanne's Legacy. That's the 24th of August. Okay, and then I need to post my project for August Stitch Camp, and I think I mentioned this before. You have to do something new to you. So I have a designer new to me, fabric new to me, and thread new to me. So I purchased my first Shepherd's Bush pattern, and it's to stitch on the mesh bags, you know, the kind of mesh bags that Fat Quarter Shop sells. And I have a bunch of them. And a lot of the threads that are called for are number 5 pearl cotton. So that's a first for me. I've never done that. And then I couldn't get all of the colors in the pearl cottons, but I have them in the DMCs. And I tried to Google, you know, what would be equivalent of the number 5, how many strands of DMC would be equivalent to number 5. I think 2, but I'm not sure that my question was really understood. And so if you know, let me know. Otherwise, I'll have to just go by the feel of, does this feel as thick as the other one? So that's the thread. That's different for me. And then, oh, I've got some odds and ends in here. And then the mesh bag. I'll stitch on the mesh bag. I've never done that. So that's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that, because that will be outside my wheelhouse there. Okay, so that's the August stitch camp. And then, of course, in August, I'll be back to my regular rotation. My first 7 days of the month will be my focus piece. Normally, it would be any 7 days of the month, consecutive or not, but since Jane Hopkins is my focus piece and I participate in the hats first week of the month sale, she's going to be the first week. And then, of course, I have my red sampler always in my rotation. I have a seasonal small always in rotation. I'll have my summer camp in rotation, the forget-me-not. So those are my plans going forward. And that is the end of my cross stitch. 26 minutes, wow. Getting shorter and shorter. I just must go blah, 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 blah. Sorry about that. I'm going to move on to the quilt that's behind me. So if you're not interested in hearing about the quilt, you can move on, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. August 4th will be my next video. Look forward to seeing you then. And if you are staying around to hear about the quilt, thank you for staying. And I'm happy to show you this one. This is canned pears from Fig Tree Quilt Company. I made this in 2016. I had been long arming a bit, so I did my own long arming. I didn't do a pantograph or anything. And I also made, over here you can see, I made a pillow sham. I think I made extra pairs, more than I needed for the quilt, just so I could do my color. You know, I don't want this color next to that one, or I want one that tips this way instead of that way. So I did a few extra, and then I took them and put them in. I made a pillow sham with an envelope back. So I'm going to have an awkward transition here when I disconnect the camera, and I'll walk you closer to the quilt so you can see close-ups of the quilting. Okay, I love Fig Tree's color palette. It's so refreshing and just feels light and pretty and refreshing, and I love it. Some of the pears tip one way, some tip the other way, so that makes some variety, a little bit of fun. I'll get closer in a minute. There's some bigger print, smaller prints, yellows, greens, corals, really pretty. Okay, let me show you details of the border. If I can see what I'm showing you here. I can't see what I'm showing. Here is the border. Okay, this is called a piano key border. It was not pieced as a piano key. It's one solid border, but I stitched it as piano key. Whoops, can you see that? I used the square as my measure. I did use a ruler for the straight lines between the keys. But then the back and forth, which is called either matchstick, or it's called refrigerator coils. You can see why it's called refrigerator coils. I'm moving this. It's like looking in a mirror. That's all hand driven. And continuous curve in all these little squares, that's all hand driven. And then the next border in, looks like it maybe was about a 3. I can't see my, there, okay. I did freeform feathers with the vein undulating back and forth, and then it turned the corner and went on around. And in the quilt itself, let's see, let me come down here to show you. In the quilt itself, I did all feathers. At first, I was contemplating doing custom in each of the, I can't see what I'm pointing to. Okay, custom in each of the pear blocks, but I just was stymied by what design would I do, and how would I transition from one to the other? Oh, fuzzy. So I decided on an all-over feather. I didn't use a pantograph. It was all hand-driven. I did feathers. I started in the top corner and went across the top with a nice wide nice wide swath of feathers, turned the corner, came back around this way, and so forth. And that's what I did. In the feathers, what did I do? In the feathers, in the leaves, I did, oh, no, that's just what, however the feathers went over it. So that's what it is. Let's see if I can get the bottom corner. You see some of the shadow makes the quilting really show up. There's the piano key border. You can see how the feathers turn the corner, just go on around. Did some fancy feathers, extra loops and whirls and stuff. So that was fun. I was getting okay. I was happy with my feathers at that point. Previous to that, I felt like they were kind of jerky and didn't really have a pretty form to them. So, okay, I'll come over to the sham. And maybe you can see now I've made a big shadow because I'm in front of a lamp here. Okay, and I did the same thing with the quilting here. I started up here in this corner, went across with feathers, turned the corner, came down, and then went back with undulating feathers, and came down, went back. Oops, I'm sorry, I just can't see. Okay, so that's the sham. And I made an envelope back for to put a pillow in. So that's canned pears, Fig Tree and Company. Fig Tree Company, I think. I like it. It's actually not been on a bed because it would go on a double bed, and that's a guest room. And usually when the guests come, it's grandsons, and so I don't put the pretty canned pears on their bed. So anyway, it's pristine. It's not been used yet. It's not been washed either. Okay, so that's canned pears. I hope you enjoyed that little tour of this quilt, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I would love to have my numbers go up. And I'll see you on August 4 with another quilt and more stitching. Thanks for stopping by. Bye, Flosstube.